All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, all you magnificent melonheads of the world, and happy Wednesday, everybody. Today's January 29th, 2025. Wow, where did the month of January go? That was fast. The top story this morning, in a shocking turn of events that has caught me completely by surprise, and the whole world is like, oh my God, what? Intellectual property theft from the Chinese. You heard it here first, folks. That's right. Chinese are stealing ideas. More news at 11. No, really, that's the big story this morning. Everybody is in shock. DeepSeek apparently sent operatives. I don't know what form this corporate espionage actually took, but the story breaking this morning is that Microsoft says they have evidence that DeepSeek sent people somehow under false pretenses or whatever. They were OpenAI customers. They signed up and registered and paid to use OpenAI's API. And they use this to steal vast amounts of training data from OpenAI using a process called distillation. Now, guys, I'm a mechanical guy. You know, my background is nuclear. So a lot of this goes over my head. But my understanding is distillation is like basically you're using OpenAI to train your AI model. That's it. It's a carbon copy is what it is. And, you know, when DeepSeek first came out, I remember looking at some of these vast, you know, these AI performance metrics, and everybody was like, this model is like almost as good as GPT-03. Or, you know, it's like right at the same level on all these different models that admittedly I don't understand. Well, DeepSeek's performance was virtually identical to OpenAI's in every category. So, I mean, I'd say like just my cursory understanding of how artificial intelligence works and how this code works. And based on the fact that the Chinese already steal freaking everything, I'm not too surprised to hear this story. Now, that being said, the stolen training data and the distillation, that would partially explain why DeepSeek's model was so much cheaper to train than some of the other Western models that we've seen. It doesn't undo the fact that the 8-bit versus 32-bit numbers that are used for inferencing being vastly cheaper than the comparable Western models, that is still legit. That is an actual innovation. The Chinese have open sourced that. And I'm telling you, armies of people with the amount of money that is at stake, there is armies of people trying to disprove what DeepSeek claims they have done. And we have not yet heard one iota of that, which tells me that the cheaper inferencing is still a legitimate innovation that the Chinese did. But at the very least, there was some corporate espionage going on over there. And that helped them achieve that seemingly unbelievably low training cost that they managed to achieve. The short answer is they stole it. And, you know, I don't know if these claims by Microsoft are true or not. All I can say is it fits the pattern, guys. I mean, anybody who has ever designed a product, you hear this from these guys on Shark Tank, like 2 or 3 years later, these guys come up with this big innovation on Shark Tank. They partner with one of these guys. They get all these sales. And then 6 months later, there's an identical product for sale in China because they just reverse engineer it and sell it on wish.com and destroy the business model. This has been going on for years. It's one of the biggest areas of contention. It's one of the biggest contributors to this trade war that seems to be escalating between the U.S. and China. And it's certainly not going to help things on that front. I would say this also makes things like tariffs more likely now. If they're, you know, put yourself in the Donald's position, Mr. Orange finds out my stock bubble just burst because of this reverse engineered wish.com version of ChatGPT. Yeah, I'm going to throw some tariffs on your stuff for that. I mean, I could really see the tit for tat continuing here. Also going on this morning, Alibaba is like, hold my beer, or whatever the Chinese equivalent of beer is. I don't know. Alibaba, they came out with a new AI model, Qwen, QWEN 2.5 Max. They're saying, according to posts from Alibaba, that this has scored better than Meta's Llama model and DeepSeek's V3. So, you know, the point is, guys, these large language models, this is becoming a very crowded field. I've heard that there are several other models that are going to be coming out of China in the next few days. So you got to wonder, what kind of a moat does big tech really have besides none whatsoever? Meanwhile, on that front, we got earnings from ASML. That's the big European semiconductor manufacturing equipment maker. ASML, they make the equipment that makes chips. And their earnings were pretty fantastic. They beat on the top and bottom line. But the big number here is their quarterly bookings absolutely destroyed expectations. 7.1 billion euros versus 3.5 billion euros expected. So in the fourth quarter, ASML's performance was fantastic. Now, I got to point out that this is a quarter that was over before the DeepSeek story broke. So, we got a lot of big tech earnings are coming up in the next 24 hours, right? This afternoon, we've got Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla. That is $6.3 trillion of market cap just among those three names there are reporting earnings today. You better believe the analysts are going to be holding their feet to the fire with questions about DeepSeek, questions about CapEx. What are your plans? Are you changing your data center plans based on this story? Now, my guess is this story is still too new and that all of these companies are going to say no change to our plans whatsoever. I don't think they're going to blink that quick. Maybe Microsoft does, because Microsoft has already made some comments about how we're not chip constrained anymore. We're power constrained. And Microsoft is pretty much sitting out Project Stargate, a terrible name. And Microsoft also has postponed, canceled, paused, whatever you want to say, plans for one of their data centers in Michigan. We talked about that story back in early January. So if anybody's going to blink on CapEx, it'll be Microsoft today. That being said, I don't think we're going to get any big, we'll say, surrenders to the DeepSeek story among big tech, because as soon as one of them does, all of their stocks are going to crash. So they are financially incentivized to keep this story going as long as possible. Also going on in business news this morning, Frontier and Spirit, that merger is back. If you guys haven't been following this budget airline soap opera, it goes a little bit like this. Frontier was going to buy Spirit, and then JetBlue came in and said, "Nuh-uh, we're going to buy Spirit." And then Lena Khan said, "No, JetBlue, you can't buy Spirit." And then Spirit said, "We're filing for bankruptcy." And now Frontier is saying, "We're going to buy Spirit again." Wow, that is exhausting. The budget carriers are really struggling here. Spirit is rejecting the offer so far, but here's the thing. Spirit may not have a say in this because Spirit is in bankruptcy. So if what Frontier is offering is better for the people that Spirit owes money to, then the judge can pretty much force Spirit to take this deal. I'm not a bankruptcy attorney, but I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So that merger may actually happen. And now that we've got a new administration in, it's going to be hard to argue that a merger between a bankrupt airline and a nearly bankrupt competitor. I don't know if Frontier is nearly bankrupt, but they're certainly not doing very well. It's hard to argue that's going to create a monopoly. Let's put it that way. What else we got this morning? Brinker International, ticker symbol EAT, EAT. This one was crazy this morning. They're a big restaurant chain operator, and they just reported earnings. Their stock is doing really good this morning. Same restaurant sales at Chili's are up 31% year over year. And I saw that, and I was just like, what the heck is going on at Chili's? I don't know. I haven't heard anything about Chili's in like a year. I haven't eaten at a Chili's in several years. I don't see Chili's commercials. I don't see ads in print or billboards for Chili's. What's going on at Chili's that all of a sudden a 31% surge in same restaurant sales? Can somebody help me out with this? Because I was looking at this and I was saying there's no way these numbers are accurate, but the stock is moving as if they are, and multiple media sources are reporting this. What? I don't know. Help me out with this one, guys. Let's crowdsource this. WTF is going on at Chili's that so many people are suddenly eating there? Now, remember, guys, the restaurant industry had a really bad 2024. People were just eating out much less. We saw a lot of restaurants go out of business. A lot of chains went under. And then all of a sudden, Chili's just does really well in the fourth quarter. So I don't know if this is a sign of things to come or maybe just a really solid promotion at this one name. Now, Maggiano's is another chain that is owned by Brinker International. They saw same restaurant sales rise like 1% and change, nowhere near what's going on at Chili's. So there's that story. We also got another interesting one. The largest office to apartment conversion has been completed. JPM's Punch Card building, which was formerly this brick house with very few windows in Manhattan's financial district, has been glazed over and converted to apartments. 1,300 apartments just hitting the market at the low, affordable price of $10,000 a month. for a one-bedroom apartment. I'm pretty sure that is what passes for affordable housing in New York City these days. $10,000 a month. So, the whole office to apartment conversion story solving the housing crisis, probably not going to happen, guys. We need lower prices. 30-year mortgages came out 7.0.2. Sorry, let me say that again. 7.02% for the 30-year mortgage, unchanged from last week. Mortgage applications did fall about 2% last week. That is down 0.4% for applications to buy, 7% lower for applications to refi. So it looks like those crazy numbers we got in the beginning of January have now leveled off, as I suspected they would. And we just got the largest monthly trade deficit ever in the United States. What's going on there? $122.11 billion in trade deficit for just 1 month. Maybe people are just scrambling to buy as much Chinese crap as they can before the Donald slaps tariffs on it. I don't know, but that trade deficit really blew out. That's going to hurt GDP. We got a lot to talk about this morning. Why don't we shrink my big melon of a head and let's see what's going on in the world of markets this morning. Don't forget that like button and that YouTube algorithm. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here because we do this every day. And right now, the S&P 500 is down 11 points, pretty much flat on the day, 0.18% lower. The Dow is down 59 points, 60 points lower here, 0.13% lower. And the NASDAQ is actually up about 24.9 points or 0.12% lower. So we got a mixed bag in stocks today. Not a whole lot going on there. The DXY, meanwhile, 108.21. We've got a stronger dollar this morning. It's up by about 30 basis points. Keep an eye on that Federal Reserve. Oh, that's right. Today is Fed Day. How did I forget that one? Jerome Powell will take to the podium this afternoon. He is largely expected to do nothing. Here is the CME Futures FedWatch tool. Right now, there is a 99.5% chance of nothing going on today. And I'd like to know who is that 0.5% wild man over there that's still betting that they lower rates today. I really doubt that's going to happen. No big changes to Fed expectations. So the question is, what does Jay Powell say? I'm sure the press is going to poke him and try to get him to say some kind of story about disagreements between him and Trump. That's probably what it's going to be, but there's really no action is expected by the Fed here. They're just looking for clues about future actions based on Powell's tone at the next press conference. Right now, the Fed seems to be in pause mode. Looking over at the bond market, we got the 30-year Treasury, 4.766. That is about 2.5 points lower. The 10-year, 4.519. That's down by 3 points. The 2 years at 4.193, down a point and change. And the 1 month is at 4.332, basically unchanged here. So not a lot of movement in bonds this morning either. Looking over at the commodities board, we've got spot gold is down by a couple of bucks here, $2,759. That's about $4.45 lower, or 0.16%. Spot silver, my favorite of the shiny, $30.70. That's up by about 30 cents or 1% higher. Copper is higher by 0.6%. Platinum is higher by 1.1%. Palladium is up by 0.8%. And WTI crude is at 73.28 for March futures. That's about 49 cents lower or 0.66%. Another commodity story to keep an eye on, guys. Check this one out in ABC News. Egg prices may increase up to 20% as top farm test positive for bird flu, according to the USDA. That is, egg prices may increase another 20% from their already OMG eggs are so freaking expensive levels that they are currently at. That is a technical term, by the way. The second largest egg producer in the U.S. reported the outbreak on Tuesday. One of the nation's top egg producers confirmed that one of its farms tested positive for cases of bird flu over the weekend. Roseacre Farms, which claims to be the second largest egg producer in the United States, released a statement on Tuesday saying it had detected cases of highly pathogenic avian influenza, or HPAI, at Courtacre Farm in Seymour, Indiana. With farms across the U.S. testing positive for bird flu cases, the USDA predicts that egg prices will rise up to 20% this year due to the shortage of eggs. Poultry found to be sick with avian flu need to be culled, and their eggs also need to be destroyed. Guys, pay attention to Tractor Supply. Let me just tell you, the last time we had a big case of bird flu, companies like Tractor Supply did fantastic as everyone and their brother decided to get backyard chickens and went and spent $5,000 at Tractor Supply in a weekend on impulse. That's one that might benefit from a story like this. My ladies are out back shivering right now. We still got the heat lamp in the coop, keeping them warm. Although their egg production is way, way down, man. My girls are about 3 years old, and we're just not getting as many eggs as we used to, just in time for higher prices. Go figure. Also on the commodities front, we've got Bitcoin at $101,972 as priced on Coinbase here, pretty much sitting exactly where it was yesterday, unchanged. We do have some potentially very big news in Bitcoin brewing over in Europe, though. Check this one out in Barron's. Bitcoin rises as Czech central bank chief calls for billions in crypto reserves. Central banks buying Bitcoin. Who had that one on their 2020s bingo? The price of Bitcoin was rising after Czech National Bank Governor Alois Mikl said he wanted the central bank to spend billions of euros worth of the country's reserves on the cryptocurrency. Mikl told the Financial Times he would present a plan to the board to invest in Bitcoin at Thursday's meeting. The Czech National Bank could eventually hold as much as 5% of its reserves in Bitcoin. Mikl highlighted wider investor interest in Bitcoin and pointed to U.S. President Trump's plans for deregulation. So, look, the Czech National Bank, what they're announcing here, I believe the number was as much as $6 billion worth of Bitcoin is what the Czech National Bank could be buying here. Coincidentally, that is almost identical to the amount of Bitcoin that the Department of Justice was talking about selling that they had previously seized from Silk Road. I don't know if that sale is still planning on going through. But basically, the Czech are saying here, like, hey, if the U.S. DOJ is going to liquidate the Bitcoin that they stole from Silk Road, we would be happy to buy it. So at the very least, a potential source of new cash liquidity entering the Bitcoin market. Now, Czech central bank, like this is not like the biggest central bank in the world. This is a small country, small economy, but still a pattern. We are seeing smaller countries, several now, at least considering this. This is just a plan. It hasn't been voted on. It hasn't been approved. But keep an eye on this one, guys. That could send Bitcoin higher. Now let's talk about the main story of the day. This is in computing.com. OpenAI accuses DeepSeek of stealing IP. And then Tom Allen, the author here, is cracking me up. He says, "Oh, the irony." Indeed, this story is very ironic here. We're channeling Alanis Morissette. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman might have said it was invigorating to have a new competitor, but that hasn't stopped his company from accusing the new rival of IP theft. The irony of a company whose entire business model is based on scraping content and is facing multiple lawsuits for doing so is not lost on us. Remember, guys, OpenAI is being sued by, everybody, because they are just taking all of everybody's information, books, news articles, magazines, works of art, and they're training their AI on it, and they're not paying the authors. When you are using for commercial uses other people's work without attribution, without compensation, well, yeah, that's IP theft. That's how that works. And now OpenAI is like, hey, China stole our data. China stole our stolen data. Yeah, sorry. Just this month, OpenAI said it was impossible to train its systems without using copyrighted content, and it's not afraid to fight its corner this week, attempting to block a media group in India from suing it for alleged content theft. So what has DeepSeek done? According to OpenAI, the U.S. company has seen evidence of distillation, apparently from DeepSeek. Distillation, a common AI practice, involves transferring knowledge from a larger model to a smaller one, effectively piggybacking on work already done. It's often used to train new models in a fraction of the time and cost of doing it from scratch, especially among startup companies and academics. OpenAI's terms of service forbid users from copying its services or using outputs to develop models that compete with OpenAI. OpenAI and Microsoft have not provided evidence of their allegations against DeepSeek. However, a source speaking to Bloomberg said the company's investigated accounts believed to have belonged to DeepSeek last year, which were using OpenAI's API. Suspecting distillation, they blocked the account's access. David Sachs, Donald Trump's top AI and crypto advisor, said it's possible DeepSeek had engaged in IP theft. Again, guys, an industry that is built on rampant IP theft, hey, crying IP theft, well, yeah, I think computing.com is right to point out the irony in this story. Also going on this morning, Alibaba touts new AI model superior to DeepSeek's and Meta's. These developments are happening very quickly all of a sudden. Alibaba Holding published benchmark scores and touted what it called world-leading performance with its new artificial intelligence model release. The upgraded Qwen 2.5 Max Edition scored better than Meta Platforms' Llama and DeepSeek's V3 model in various tests, according to figures in Alibaba's cloud announcement on WeChat. Alongside Tencent Holdings and Baidu, Alibaba has poured significant resources into its cloud services segment and is engaged in a hot contest to recruit China's AI developers to use its tools. Alibaba stock is up 3% on this news, trading at $99 here. That's up about $2.87. Meanwhile, we've got earnings from chip equipment manufacturer ASML. Chip gear leader ASML smashes bookings target and the stock pops. ASML, supplier of the world's most advanced semiconductor manufacturing equipment, on Wednesday beat analysts' expectations for the fourth quarter and guided above views for the current period. ASML stock rose on the news. Now, guys, it's not so much the earnings that is the big story here. The earnings and the revenue both beat and showed impressive growth rate. It was those quarterly net bookings at 7.1 billion euros versus a consensus of 3.5 billion euros, more than doubled the quarterly bookings. ASML's extreme ultraviolet lithography equipment accounted for 42% of its Q4 bookings. So, if we take ASML as an example here, guys, they're selling a lot of semiconductor manufacturing equipment. That means the chip industry is still spinning up. They're still adding capacity as of the end of last quarter. That doesn't reflect these new DeepSeek developments, but it does show that at least as of the end of December, the AI bubble was still inflating. They were still blowing. ASML's stock is up 5.8%. At one point this morning, it was up over 10%. It's given back some of those gains here, trading at $723.05 here. That's up about $40 this morning. Now back to the airline drama. Frontier Airlines proposes merging with fellow budget carrier Spirit again. Frontier said Wednesday it has again proposed merging with struggling rival Spirit Airlines, which is in bankruptcy. Frontier and Spirit first announced a deal to merge in 2022, but a JetBlue Airways offer derailed that plan. JetBlue's proposed acquisition of Spirit was then blocked by a federal judge last year, and Spirit filed for bankruptcy protection in November. Frontier said in a release that it has met with Spirit's board and executives since it made its proposal last month. Frontier executives said in an email to counterparts at Spirit this week that their plan is better than Spirit's own plan to emerge from bankruptcy. We continue to believe that under the current standalone plan, Spirit will emerge highly levered, losing money and operating at the operating level, and this would not be a transaction we would pursue, wrote Frontier Chairman Bill Frank and CEO Barry Biffle in a Tuesday email to Spirit Chairman Matt Gardner and CEO Ted Christie. As a result, time is of the essence. Christie and Gardner told their Frontier counterparts that they were rejecting the deal, calling the terms inadequate and unactionable, according to a letter shared in a securities filing on Wednesday. So Frontier wants to buy them again. Spirit is saying, no, we don't think your price is right. Now, again, it's not really up to Spirit here. Spirit is not really in a very strong position to negotiate because they're in bankruptcy court. So if the judge looks at the number that Frontier is offering and then looks at Spirit's plans and says, look, the people Spirit owes money to would come out better if the Frontier deal went through, the judge can order that deal to go through. So, this is, I guess you would call this a hostile takeover now from Frontier, trying to basically force Spirit to take a lower number out of bankruptcy court. We'll see what comes out of this one. And then, of course, assuming the judge does order this, then you got to wonder, are the regulators going to approve it? You have a new set of regulators and regulations with the new administration. So the budget airline drama continues. And then here's the one that's got me scratching my head this morning, guys. And again, let me know in the comments, what the heck is going on at Chili's? Diners are flocking to Chili's again, says parent company Brinker. Same restaurant sales soared 31% at Chili's, driven by new and returning guests. Brinker International stock soared 8% pre-market Wednesday after the operator of Chili's and Maggiano's restaurants crushed estimates for its fiscal second quarter and offered upbeat guidance for the full year. We'll skip over the earnings numbers. They were pretty good here, but look at this. Same restaurant sales rose 27.4%, driven by a 31.4% increase at Chili's, while Maggiano's same restaurant sales were up 1.8%. The FactSet consensus was for a rise of 18.6%. Chili's sales growth was driven by a 19.9% increase in traffic generated by investments in advertising behind industry-leading value that brought guests in and operational improvements that brought guests back, the company said in a statement. What what was in these ads? Is there a new spokesperson? Like, is there like this like techno remix of the Baby Back Ribs song done by Lady Gaga that's got everybody going crazy for Chili's? I don't know, but it's working, whatever it is. Those numbers are amazing. I've never seen a 31% same store restaurant increase in my life. And look, Breaker International stock is reacting accordingly. $173, up $18 or almost 12% higher. It's a restaurant chain. They're not supposed to put up big tech-like numbers, but apparently, at least as far as Chili's is concerned, people are going back to the restaurants here. Look for names like Applebee's and Fridays. See if this repeats itself. I don't know. Maybe there's hope for Red Lobster coming out of bankruptcy or something, or maybe it's just a fluke. Last but not least, well, not last, but JP Morgan's former punch card building unveils $10,000 rentals. So this is pretty interesting, guys. Here, this is a 55-year-old building. There's some pictures here. Let me shrink this a little bit so you can see. All right, on this side, this is what the building used to look like. It was their old punch card building. They like processed paper checks and things like that there. They revamped the building. This is what it looks like now. You know, they took out a lot of the bricks and added windows. They made them apartments. Now, here's the thing. It's proven that it can be done. An office building can be converted to apartments. The point is, 1,300 rentals at $10,000 a month in New York City's financial district. Does this solve the housing crisis in America's cities? Does this get people off the streets? Hell no. All right. I mean, look, New York is in la la land with their head in the clouds. What they pay for things in that city has never made sense to me. But $10,000 a month is not affordable by any measure, not even New York standards. And, you know, the other thing is housing in New York City's financial district. That's not really where you need the housing. But at the very least, guys, we finally have an example of an office building converted to apartments. Up until today, maybe there had been some smaller one in some like tier 2 city elsewhere in the country, but there haven't been many examples. Everybody's been talking about doing this for a long time. A lot of people have tried to do this and lost a ton of money doing it. This is the first example of it actually happening. But again, look at the price tag here, $10,000 a month. Like, Jesus, who can afford a $10,000 a month rent? I don't know. Speaking of real estate, we got 30-year mortgage rates out this morning. The average contract interest rate for 30-year fixed-rate mortgages with conforming loan balances in the U.S. steadied at 7.02% for the week ending January 24th. No change in the 30-year mortgage rate here. Mortgage rates have risen sharply since the Fed began their cutting cycle back in September. We were around 6.13%. We've risen almost a full percent since interest rates started going lower. Again, I said this a few times. Somebody forgot to tell interest rates that they were heading lower. Now, this is also interesting. Mortgage applications in the U.S. fell by 2% despite the flat rates from the previous week ending January 34th. I'm going to go ahead and guess that's a typo there, unless there's been some kind of astronomical event that now suddenly there's 34 days in January. But this is trimming the 33.4% surge from 2 weeks earlier. Applications for a contract to refinance a mortgage, which are more sensitive to short-term changes in rates, fell by 7%. In turn, applications for a mortgage to purchase a new home eased by 0.4%. All this is really telling me, guys, is this big surge from January 10th, that 33% surge that we saw. This is just telling me that that was a fluke. We had a couple of weeks of big negative numbers during the holidays, then a big positive number, and we've been pretty much unchanged since then. The housing market, it just remains frozen. Now, this is another interesting one. The U.S. goods trade balance. The trade deficit in goods widened to $122.11 billion in December of 2024, above market expectations of $105.4 billion deficit, and after a revised $103.5 billion for the month prior. An advanced estimate showed. Now, exports fell by 4.5% and imports rose by 3.9%. Here's the interesting thing. If we look at this number, this negative number, the most it's been in a year. If we zoom out 3 years, it's the lowest it's been. In 2022, we hit minus $121 billion. We're now at negative 122. Zoom out 5 years, 10 years, zoom all the way out. This is the biggest goods trade deficit ever. And I suspect what's going on here is American importers just put a surge of new orders in, trying to buy as much inventory as they can ahead of the tariffs coming from Mr. Orange. I could be wrong about that one. That big drop in exports was also notable there. Look, trade wars probably not going to be good for the trade balance. Tariffs probably not going to be good for the trade balance. I think the higher prices will get here before the new manufacturing and the new jobs that they're supposed to generate. But keep an eye on this number, especially as that T word gets thrown around more and more. And I just want to say thank you so much to the Pasta Man. What's going on, Nashville? He says 1920s stock pools and companies buy each other's stock. Companies buying each other's stock. That would be kind of new. Companies buying their own stock, certainly not new. Companies buying each other's service, that's not new, right? Google's biggest customer is Apple. So the big tech names buying each other's products and services and then using the revenue to buy their own stock and round trip with their own customers. Certainly no shortage of financial wizardry at work among the big tech names. We'll see if that survives the DeepSeek mayhem. That tide is starting to go out, and, we're going to find out what people are wearing in the pool or not wearing as that tide goes out. It's going to be an interesting couple of months if this DeepSeek story keeps playing out, especially if these Chinese competitors keep rolling off the assembly line like that. I mean, at this point, are we going to hear about a new large language model every week? The space is becoming heavily commoditized, and the kind of financial shenanigans that Mr. Pastaman is referring to will be laid bare when that happens. Thank you very much, Nashville, for supporting the channel, sir. And Hunt and Cover, thank you, sir, for supporting the channel. Gas money to get you to the White House press briefing room. Amen, Reverend. Should I apply for a press pass? I got a call from Bish this morning after our normal phone call had wrapped. Apparently, the White House is allowing content creators to apply for a pass to the press briefing room. What do you guys think? Should I get a press pass? Should I wear a lanyard with my press pass and just walk around flashing it to everybody? Be like, hi, I'm Jack. I'm with the press. I'm media. Maybe I could do the little, Dr. Evil thing with the pinky. I don't know, man. Me and the White House press corps, are they ready for that? I don't know. Melonheads in the press corps. 2020's bingo cards. Thank you, Hunt and Cover. A little bit of gas money to get me to the press briefing room. Here I come. Steve Woitis says today's Canada's central bank is expected to cut 25 basis point using potential tariffs as an excuse. Not too surprised to see that. Look, there's Cynthia Friedland that she was like Justin Trudeau's little like finance, whatever, vice VP. I don't know about Canadian politics. I'm sorry. No offense to my Canadian buddies there. But she's basically campaigning against Trump. She wants to be Justin Trudeau's successor. And instead of campaigning against the person she's actually running against, she's campaigning against Trump. And the Canadian central bank cutting 25 basis points to try to juice the economy to offset tariffs. I guess that would help. That would help her chances. Here's the thing. Rate cuts are inflationary and tariffs are inflationary. So if you're cutting rates using an inflationary method to offset an inflationary method, what's the one constant here? More inflation. And that is their answer to everything, isn't it? They are so freaking one-dimensional. No matter what's going on, inflate. It's like my trainer in high school, Mr. Casino. No matter what happened, you got a big gash on your arm, you're bleeding out, you rolled your ankle, you totally like cracked your knee in half. Oh, just ice it. I'll tape it in the morning. Yeah, I broke my back. Ice it. I'll tape it in the morning. Coach, this guy's got a big gash on his forehead. Just ice it. I'll tape it in the morning. No matter what these central banks hear, rate cuts. That's the solution. We're just going to lower rates. Maybe print money. See if I'm feeling cute later. They're so freaking one-dimensional. Thank you, Steve Woitis, for the super chat, sir. Nikki B says Chili's is taking fast food customers. Better value. Interesting. We should see a commensurate decline in fast food revenue then if we're seeing that big bump in Chili's. I don't know that we aren't. I haven't looked that closely at the fast food numbers. But one plausible explanation there is Chili's getting faster. Can you get in and out of there a lot quicker now? Maybe possible explanation there. Thank you, Nikki B, for contributing to the channel and the discussion, sir. And M&J, what's going on, M&J, says the chat has voted and it is a yes on the White House press pass. All right. So I have to ask, is there an attire policy in the White House press pool? Do they allow headwear? Because if I end up in the White House press pool, I am totally bringing the tinfoil hat So it might only last one day. I may get thrown out for violating the dress code standards, but it'd be worth it just to get that on the air once, right? Right? I mean, it can't not do that. All right, the people have spoken. I will apply for a White House press pass. What the hell? Might as well. Thank you, M&J. Thank you to all my melon heads. Thank you guys for having your coffee with us this morning. I appreciate that very much. Thank you guys for the super chats, as well as you magnanimous melon heads on Patreon and YouTube. You guys rock. Thank you for all the help. Links down below, should you feel so inclined. Don't forget that like button and that subscribe button on the way out. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Love you guys. Everybody, until next time, live small and dream big.